Plan is to actually take them off the wall, try not to break them. My main goal for this space is to bring in character. Very organic, very warm, lots of rich tones. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing episode 1 of my bathroom makeover. We're going to be talking all things design, mood boards, inspiration photos, everything in between, all the plans that I have for this space. So we're going to be covering a lot of ground in this video, and then the next couple episodes are going to be actually making over the space, bringing you guys through my learning process, just the process in general of bringing this space to life. And I'm just really excited to see how it's all going to turn out and talk all of the logistics with you today. And also stay tuned to the end of the video because there are a couple different accent colors that I'm trying to choose between for the bottom part of this bathroom. And I'm going to be sharing with you guys these swatches. I'm actually going to be going and getting some samples and putting them on the wall and just sort of seeing what we're gravitating towards. So I really want your guys' opinion with that and see what you guys are thinking. I believe that is everything. Let's go ahead and get started. So I think every good makeover starts with a good before, a good starting point to where we are and how we're going to bring it to what we want it to be. So this is what the space is looking like. I feel like it is very plain. I feel like we definitely have a good blank slate. This house was built 27 plus years ago, and we have this sort of golden oak cabinetry in there that was super popular in the 80s and 90s. I love that we have a double sink sort of vanity area and lots of storage. The bottom half of this room is painted a sort of dark green color, and then there's a sort of wooden chair rail that goes all the way around the room, and then the top sort of 2/3 of the room is this sort of creamy white color. A couple years back I did add on the tile that's above the shower, so that is completely done, and the tile that's on the floor in there we actually did a handful of years ago, so we're not going to need to touch that either. So overall this space is super simple, lots of traditional, very classic details that I feel like we can definitely accent and accentuate in a way that we definitely like a lot more, if that makes sense. So I think there's definitely a lot of things that we can do with this space. So first let's talk about our must-haves in this space. Now I'm going to be using the term must-haves pretty loosely. Of course this bathroom does function. It doesn't really need all of this renovation, all of this work put into it, of course, but there are some things that are higher on our list priority wise that we want to replace or change as opposed to other things. So I think it's important to differentiate those wants that are just sort of extras, but also the things that are highest on your priority list that you really want to change. So the first big thing in that space are the cabinets. Like I said, they are this sort of golden oak color. We have this color of trim everywhere in our home, but something that we want to do with these cabinets in particular in this space is actually neutralize the orange in them a little bit. So like I said, there's a chair rail that sort of goes all the way around the room and just sort of sections it. It's sort of like that bottom third of the room, and that trim piece is actually an add-on from a handful of years ago. That was something that was later added to the space, and if you look at it closely, it is a little bit more of a neutral version of that oak. It sort of has a little bit more of a gray sort of green undertone, if that makes sense. So it's a little bit more neutral, it's a little bit more of a tan. We want to treat the cabinets in there to sort of match that color. So we've done a little bit of research. The route that we think we want to go with is a sort of blue stain. It's kind of like the color theory sort of idea. So if you have a redwood, it said that you should use a green stain to neutralize it. Same with orange and blue. We are going to continue to do research. If you guys have actually done this process before or something very similar, let me know in the comments below. I definitely like to hear you guys' input, and I feel like in the past I've definitely learned a lot from you guys. So if you have any ideas, let me know. We also want to update the mirrors that are above that vanity area. Those mirrors have been there for as long as I can remember. I'm pretty sure they are original to the house. Our plan is to actually take them off the wall, try not to break them, and actually resell them on Marketplace or give them to somebody else. And while we're on the subject of the vanity, something I wanted to do in this space was to to create an accent wall, but also something that's a little bit more subtle because we do have that color that sort of sits at that bottom third of the room. So I actually wanted to do a wallpaper in this area. So it's just going to be that one wall, and it's just going to add a lot of texture. I want it to be very neutral looking and just have lots of organic lines. And I feel like the combination of a really organic wallpaper as well as the mirrors with a sort of circular shape, I think that's really going to break up the 90-degree angles of that space and add a lot of dimension, add lots of character. And the last thing on our list of must-haves is to just give the room an entirely new coat of paint. So if I'm being honest, the color scheme or the paint colors on the walls are actually not going to differ very much from where they're at right now. I plan on keeping the upper half of that room more of a light creamy white color. I don't want it to be a stark white because I don't want it to feel too cold in there. I feel like bathrooms can tend to feel that way naturally, so I want to do a sort of creamy warm white. And then the bottom, I sort of wanted to stick with a green idea. It is going to differ just a little bit, but I love the idea of bringing in this sort of rich, moody, evergreen sort of look to the space. Now let's move into some things for this space that are not must-haves, things that are just additional things that we may or may not do, things that we'll sort of keep in the back of our minds to do a few years down the road. The first thing is actually something that we may or may not do. Of all the things on this particular list, this one is the most likely to actually happen. So basically we have two faucets in there right now. They're this sort of silver, almost matte finish, but they do have a slight warm undertone, so they're really not too bad at all. However, the one on the right side actually has like a leak. It sort of leaks a little bit, and the only way to fix that issue is to actually replace the faucet. So basically we decided if we go and we replace it and they have the same exact one that we already have in there, it's a lot cheaper to replace one faucet rather than two. If for some reason we go to the hardware store and we can't find that exact one anymore, we will be replacing both of them. And if that's the case, we're going to go with something that's a little bit different. So this is the sort of look that I am sort of toying with. I like the idea of bringing in a little bit more of that bronze sort of brass color. It'll match the finish that I plan on doing on the mirrors and the new hardware that we'll actually be adding to the cabinetry. So again, that may or may not happen, but we'll sort of see what the situation demands. Next up, also in the vanity area, we sort of toyed with getting a new countertop. Now in there, I don't really know exactly what it is. It's almost like a veneer layer on top that sort of has a marble look to it. And then on the side of it, there's just a wood trim piece. So it's obviously not stone right now. It's just like sort of a hollow wood box, if that makes sense. So we sort of toyed with the idea of replacing that basically with all of the things that we planned on doing, with giving it a fresh new coat of paint and treating the cabinets, getting new mirrors and wallpaper. It really just didn't fit into that budget that we are planning to do for this makeover. And the last thing in the vanity area that we sort of toyed with replacing are the sink basins. Because they're white and everything, you know, you sort of see the wear and tear. They get outdated. In the end, they still work perfectly fine. So for now, we're going to be leaving those as well. Now for my favorite part, which is mood board and inspiration photos, color schemes, everything that we want for this space. Now we've actually bought a few of those things because we've been sort of planning this makeover for quite a while, but this is the mood board that I came up with. Again, very organic, very warm, lots of rich tones. I want to bring in that evergreen sort of dark moody color, some dark browns, but also find that balance and keep it as light and bright as possible. We have our gold mirrors on there, the wallpaper, which I'm going to show you guys in a second as well, some art I purchased off of Etsy, a new shower rug, stuff like that. There's also just like a bunch of little things that we're going to be replacing, and we're also going to be like refreshing our towels. But this is what our wallpaper looks like. So it's this very organic sort of modern take on a bunch of like leaves and plants and things. It has this neutral sort of taupe background, and then all of the details, all the line work are a sort of medium brown. So I think this is going to add a lot of visual texture. It gives your eyes something a little bit different to look at. So like I said, this wallpaper is actually going to be going above the vanity area. So it's going to be going behind the sinks as well as our new mirrors. This is waterproof. We got this, I believe, off of Wayfair, if I remember correctly. I will have it linked down below if you're interested. I want to say there was was maybe one more color that it comes in, but it's waterproof, it's peel and stick. Waterproof was very important because this is going in a bathroom and it's going to be right by the sinks, and we're not going to need any sort of adhesive. We're not going to need to get this wet or anything like that. I just feel like it's going to be a really easy application. I've never done it before, but I will definitely do some research on how to do it properly and just sort of people's tips and tricks. I think that is just going to be so stunning on the wall and just bring in so much character. That's my main goal for this space, is to bring in character, especially after I took like all the things off the wall. If there was any sort of artwork or anything like that, this room really is very plain. It is definitely a blank slate, which I love. Like I said, I wanted to bring in brass tones because that's what's original to this space, and honestly I think it looks the best with that sort of oak wood color. So we're going to be replacing the hardware on that. I actually found those off of Amazon, but then I'm also going to be adding in a few black accents. We have a black towel rack that sort of sits on the back wall, and then the shower rod also is like a black sort of dark brown color. So we're definitely going to be bringing in a little bit of contrast too, and I'm just so excited to see how these elements are going to come together. So with any renovation or makeover project, I feel like there are always those things that are going to intimidate us and keep us from doing those projects. The thing that's been keeping me from starting this project, besides just life being crazy, is definitely the cabinet situation. If I only had to repaint this room and just decorate it or do super simple things like that, things that I've done so many times, I would have done this project probably 3 weeks ago. And the first time that I actually sat down to do research on this particular project or this cabinetry situation, even just in the last 12 hours, I'm like, I'm ready to do this. And I think it's important to remember that sometimes we just need to dive into those projects, do our research, watch YouTube videos, Google things, look at different products that need to be used for whatever situation you're trying to figure out, but do as much prep work as you can to feel comfortable with what you are doing. With that being said, I think it's time that we go and get some paint samples and figure out what accent color we want to use in this space. So when I went to Sherwin-Williams, I already had 2 different colors picked out from just looking online and looking at some of the photos that people have posted using those colors. Both of these colors are greens, but the first one is called Dried Thyme. This one is the lighter version of the 2 that I picked up. I would say is sort of a medium green. It definitely has some warm tones in it. It even has a few blue undertones as well. And for both of these, I just took a piece of paper and painted a sample on there, let it dry, and then I put it up in my bathroom. And basically for both of these samples, we're just gonna let them sit on the wall for a few days and sort of see which one we gravitate towards. The second one is called Rosemary. This is the darkest of the 2 colors. This one has more neutral undertones, but it definitely is the same warmth as the Dried Thyme. These came from the same color family. This one is just a step darker. This one is super rich feeling to me. This color definitely gives that evergreen feel that I'm going for. And I did the same thing. I painted it on a piece of paper and then hung it up next to Dried Thyme. And after the fact, I actually ended up finding a different color also on Sherwin-Williams. So I'm just gonna insert the image of it here because we didn't get a sample. This one is called Evergreen Fog, and this one is a little bit different. It's not quite as warm as the Rosemary or the Dried Thyme. It has more neutral undertones. This one is truly a really good mix of a warm green as well as a gray. So my question is, with all of these next to each other, which one would you choose? Or are any of these colors that you would not choose? Do you think I should try something a little different? It definitely all comes down to undertone and how much of a statement that we want to make in here. So after we live with these for a little while and I also get your guys' input, we should have a good idea and be able to paint the room next episode. So I'm curious to see what your thoughts are. Alright you guys, that is going to wrap up episode 1 of this bathroom makeover. We talked about all of the things that I want to do in this space, my inspiration photos, color schemes, things I need to do research on, all the different plans that I have for this space. Again, let me know in the comments down below which color you think is going to look best in this space. I definitely want to feel it out for a little bit longer, but I'm curious to see what your guys' input is on that. And make sure that you stay tuned. The next couple episodes of this makeover, we're actually going to be starting this process, and I'm just really excited to see how it's going to turn out, and I think we're going to definitely learn a lot together in this process. But anyway, thank you guys so much for spending some time with me over on my channel today. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day so far, and I cannot wait to see you in my next video. Bye you guys.